it's easy to say I want to get married. It's a whole nother thing to actually do it. And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like one of the things that probably made it a little easier for you was the fact that I was pretty consistent throughout our relationship of being somebody who follows up on their word. What's up, fam? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline, and you're tuning in to another episode of the W Podcast, where you get wisdom in the word with the
Wheeler.
Hey, so we are so excited. It feels good to be back. This is our first podcast back in a few weeks, and we're so grateful to be back and be able to give y'all content to help you just a little bit along your dating journey, your love life, engagement, singleness, whatever season you find yourself in. We're here to help you, and we're excited to be back. If you don't know, we are in our Story Time series. And Story Time series is simply where we share stories from our personal life, whether it was dating, engagement, maybe even marriage, and we share things we've done wrong, things we've done right, and we try to help it make you laugh, inspire you, show you things that you can possibly incorporate into your relationship, whether today or in the future. And we're excited to get started. Today's story is definitely a funny one. For it depends on who you ask. It's definitely something that a lot of people can relate to. And the crazy thing is, I don't know how many years, but this is the day this comes out.
6 years.
This is the 6-year anniversary of this event happening.
Not happening.
We didn't plan that. It just worked out. Shout out to God. But I'm excited for y'all to hear the story. We're talking about the day that Pauline thought your boy was going to propose to her. Now, I know you may be saying, that ain't funny, but it kind of is funny. It kind of is. We'll explain it. So, let me set the scene. This is 2017. We got engaged in 2017. Mm-hmm. Pauline thought on July 4th, 2017, your boy was going to propose. I don't know why she thought that. She'll have to explain.
Let me explain.
You want to just jump in right now?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Because, I was the type of person where I always felt like it's the best time to surprise people, because obviously a proposal is supposed to always be a surprise. It's the best time to surprise people is when another surprise is already happening. Now, I'm not talking, or not surprise, another event is already happening. So I'm not talking about those proposal videos that we saw going viral years ago where, a bridesmaid was going to propose to at her best friend's wedding, like that type of thing. I think that's too much. We need boundaries with these things. But I loved seeing Christmas proposals, New Year's Day proposals, when people would propose on national holidays.
Have you ever seen a July 4th proposal?
No, and that's why I thought it was a good opportunity for you to take advantage of that. So I always kind of thought that, and I thought I communicated that to you, that, that would be a good opportunity, like, I would love that, you're at a cookout.
Well, you've never, ever said anything about a July 4th proposal.
Maybe I didn't say that specifically, but I definitely told you how I thought like Christmas proposals were cute, and Easter not so much.
Right. Yeah, I know this about Jesus, but marry me.
Other holidays, national holidays, where people are together, you're thinking, this family time, everyone's getting together to eat and celebrate, and then boom, out of nowhere, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting this.
This is low-key
like a birthday proposal.
This is low-key a good lesson in communication, because you got to be clear when you're trying to communicate something to your partner. No. Let me finish. You got to be clear, because all the examples you use, Thanksgiving, Christmas, nowhere near 4th of July. So that's a whole different season.
It's a national holiday, just like
you never said national holiday to me.
Okay, well, because it also could be birthday, which is not technically a national holiday, but anyway, that was what I wanted, what I thought was a good idea, it was cute. But as also, ladies, y'all can understand, you're not trying to tell your boyfriend everything to do. Oh, show up at this time. But, you want them to have some type of creative license as well. So I was also, if I wasn't clear, that's probably why. Because I also didn't know what's going on. We also have to be mindful, well, we'll get into whatever setting the scene, but I had very high expectations, I was like on edge for at least 2 weeks, like when's gonna do it, and I thought you were gonna do it that day.
Okay, so that's a good point. Let's set the scene a little bit more, because some people may be listening like, yeah, holiday, but like, why specifically 4th of July? Why were you expecting it that day?
Yeah, well, because it had been, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks since you had come back from my parents' house. And this is kind of the drawback when you grow up out of state or your parents live in a different state. And, you know, because I had known that Tim was going to their house
For what?
in Boston that day to ask for my hand in marriage. I knew. So I knew once he got back that that's when the clock was going to start. And I was like, okay, pretty much when he gets back, it could happen at any point in time. And you know, a lot of that's why it's great and like more, I don't want to say traditional, but like normal settings where you both live in the same state and your parents both live in the same state, that the boyfriend can sneak away for a couple of hours and the girlfriend not even know that you went there.
Do you wish I hadn't told you? Because I could have just not texted you that day.
But that would have been suspicious in and of itself.
Why would you think, oh, he's in Boston?
But I would think, why aren't you talking to me?
I lost
And
my
obviously,
phone.
there's a lot of times people get when people are proposing that the boyfriend distances himself because he's like, well, I don't want anything to slip out.
Let me just speak to that. Yeah, I do not miss that time of my life where you're trying to plan a proposal because it's stressful, especially if you're a man of God. Because I don't normally lie to her. You know, some dudes, they may be used to lying to their girls, so it's just normal. But for me, I'm used to telling her everything at that time, and still now. But at that time, I was telling her everything, and it was really hard to try to conceal certain things, especially because Pauline is smart, and most women are smart, and you can sniff things out if I'm getting close to proposal. That's why it was kind of funny that you would ever think I would do it on 4th of July, because that's just way too obvious. Because I was trying to make it a surprise, because you told me that's what you want.
Yeah.
So I don't miss having to lie and all that stuff. But
yeah,
continue.
So that's why I made it harder, because I had a clock ticking. And most girls, I think that's what makes our situation a little bit more unique. And hopefully those of you all who are like, girl, why are you thinking that? You're doing too much. Hopefully you can understand a little bit more why my expectations were I was on high alert, because I had known he just had that conversation with my parents. So like I said, in most situations the girl doesn't even know when that conversation happens, so there is no clock ticking, so you really are surprised.
So let's go back even further and slow it down. It's 4th of July. Let's not assume that y'all just assumed that we were already hanging out.
Oof.
So we decided to hang out that day together. 4th of July, we wanted to spend it together. And we went to downtown Annapolis.
Right.
You thought I was going to do it at downtown Annapolis?
No, I was trying to be very open. I mean, that could have been a possibility, because you know that I love going to Annapolis. It's so pretty down there. You know, it's by the water. I didn't know what the plan was. You could have had family meet us down there. It could have been anything.
So we were driving to Annapolis. What were you thinking? You were like, oh, this is how we going to do it.
I was just wondering, like, oh, I wonder what today is going to look like. And I had asked you, like, oh, is there anything, like, you know, that you really want to do or something like that? And you're like, oh, we'll just go down there and walk around. You know, Annapolis is very, like, busy during 4th of July because they have fireworks. People go down with their families. There's, like, ice cream, restaurants, all of that by the water. So you're like, yeah, we'll walk around, get ice cream.
Right.
And just enjoy the day. And I was like, okay, well, obviously he's not going to tell me, like, yeah, like, when we get down there, XYZ is going to pop off. So I was just like, okay, like, I was fine with that response and kind of expecting it. And mind you, we weren't dressed up or anything. It was, like, jeans and t-shirts.
So that didn't set you off right there?
No, because I didn't know what type of, you know, I never said, like, oh, we have to be in gowns, like, when we, you know, during our proposal. And I wasn't really that dressed up. On the day
that's a whole
another
story.
We did get engaged. So I was fine with whatever. I was like, I don't know what he has planned. I don't want him to feel... Because if it's happening today, me inserting any type of comments is not going to help. Whatever is planned by now is planned, and I'm just going to go with the flow.
Because you wanted to be surprised.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we get to Annapolis, we're walking around, we're having a good time. At least I am. We're going to restaurants, get some ice cream.
Parade. There's a parade. Remember?
Yeah, fireworks. I don't really remember the parade. Was that the day it started pouring raining?
Yes.
It started pouring raining. So when that happened, we were like, it was so bad. We had to like go under covering a building that had like
With
a covering.
a lot of other people, yeah.
A lot of other people like for like 10 minutes. We were just stuck
Yeah, it was
under
the
that.
torrential downpours.
What were you thinking then? Like, because obviously you're still thinking that I'm going to propose to you this day. So you're like, man, like, I'm not going to have good pictures. Like, what were you thinking?
So, okay, there's a difference between hoping that you get engaged and then, like, expecting to get engaged that day. So the whole, because you remember we had like some, like, relationship meeting, because we used to do monthly meetings even when we were dating, check-ins. And I remember asking you, like, so should I, like, get my hair done? Like, what's going on? And
I do remember that time.
You were like, no, like, I can't tell you what to do. You give me some of those type of, like, very vague, unhelpful responses. My nails looking all crazy. And then one day you were like, yeah, if I were you, I'd just get it done so you don't keep thinking about it.
I said that before 4th of July.
No, this is afterwards,
okay.
Obviously. So anyway, back to 4th of July, the day at hand. Yeah, I started, like, we're at the parade. Mission Barbecue was, like, throwing free sandwiches from their truck during the parade. That was fun.
You remember way more than I do.
I do. That was a very significant day for me. And, yeah, it starts raining, and I was like, oh, crap. Because I'm thinking, like, all right, like, maybe the first part of the day is us just being chill. You know, like, us hanging out in Annapolis, just enjoying the day. But, like, maybe he's going to take me somewhere after at night, and then that's going to be, you know, the whole shebang. So I really was chill. I was like looking around every corner, like, oh, like, what's happening? I was like, okay, like, this is Annapolis for the day, whatever, that's fine. So yeah, it starts raining, and we're hiding under, like, it was right outside this Bank of America. We didn't have any umbrellas, we had no ponchos, we had nothing. I don't even know if we even checked the weather back then, because we're way more responsible now, where we're like, oh, what's the weather gonna be? Hey Alexa, what's the weather?
I mean, if I was actually planning to propose, I definitely would have checked the weather.
Well, I didn't know that back then.
So we get out of there. When the fireworks started happening, did you still think I was going to propose?
By the time it was like torrential downpours.
Still, we didn't do fireworks?
I don't remember because of the weather. I don't know if they ended up doing them. At least while we were there. I think they did them later at night.
So at what point during the day did you realize this really isn't happening?
When you were driving me home.
Wait, so we start driving home and, like, are you, like, really mad? Like,
no, because I'm soaking wet and I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe it's best it doesn't happen today because I look a mess and, like, as the day progressed and, like, because it started raining at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I feel like we're running out of time. Like, it's probably not going to happen today. It's not like you promised me anything like, hey, we're going to go to Annapolis and I have a big surprise for you at the end. There was nothing really. Again, if that clock wasn't ticking with you going to see my parents, I don't know that any reasonable person would have had reasonable expectations to get proposed that day. But for me, because that clock was ticking, I was like, okay, any day that we're together, any day that, you know, like, this is the day we both had off completely, like, the whole day. That's why I was kind of thinking that way. Not necessarily because, oh, like, 4th of July, everybody gets proposed on 4th of July. It was just more of like, okay, you know, it's going to happen soon. And given the circumstances, you know, this could be an opportunity. But as the day went on, I was like, okay, maybe not today then.
So
I felt very deflated, like a balloon.
So obviously you went through that. What would you say to somebody, because there may be somebody watching this right now and they've been dating for a while, they think their boyfriend may have gone and asked their dad or whoever for their hand in marriage. Like, how were you able to not be mad at me the next day or the day after? Like, how did you keep things still all good, essentially, in our relationship? Because that's a big...
Were things all good?
That's a big disappointment, or is it not?
Well, I mean, again, the difference between, like, expecting something to happen and then being hopeful that it happens.
So you weren't like, oh, I don't know if he's gonna propose to me. It was just
at all.
Yeah, you weren't like that.
Oh no, of course not. I wasn't like, oh, if it doesn't happen today, it's never gonna happen. I was just thinking like, okay, this would be a good day for him to do it, and then, you know, that wasn't true, given how everything played out. So. But for anybody who's thinking like, okay, I want to get proposed to and it's not happening yet, like the bigger context matters. So I couldn't be mad at you because again, it's not like you told me, oh, this big surprise for you and this day is going to be a super special day and you know, you didn't really set my expectations unrealistically. I had done that myself. And I was okay with that. I was okay with being expectant or being hopeful and, you know, me going home without a ring on my finger because that was something that I told myself, like, oh, it could happen today. You didn't tell me that or give me any hints of that.
So you think that whole day in context helped because we had conversations about engagement that I knew that it was going to happen. Because I'm just thinking about somebody who's watching this, and sometimes every couple, they don't have the best conversations about engagement, when it's going to happen. Not necessarily when, but like if, I guess, it's going to happen. So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can, you know, just encourage.
Yeah, I think I mean, I feel like most women who are watching and you and your boyfriend have had conversations about getting married in general, and you know his heart that he does want to get married, and even better, you know that he wants to get married to you. I think you'd be pretty peaceful up until this point. Now, obviously, if those two conversations have happened and it's still been years, then maybe you would be a little bit more doubtful that it's going to happen. And obviously, that wasn't the situation for us. That's why I didn't have any frustration, and I had more peace. Like, at the end of the day, okay, it's just not going to happen today, but it's going to happen another day. And a week later, it did. So
now, let me ask you this. Say 4th of July happens, and a month goes by, and I still don't propose. How do you think you would have handled that? Like, do you think you would have had a conversation with me? Because I'm thinking about this from somebody else's perspective, where something like that could happen. They may be expecting it, and then a month goes by. Like, should somebody be worried in that situation, or?
Well, I mean, technically we should never worry.
But concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always one to talk and have conversations. So I'm always going to say, yeah, you should talk about it. And just really continue conversations that you all have had before. So for us, because we have talked about it so much, it would just be a continuation of that. Not like, hey, what happened on 4th of July? I thought you were going to propose. Because it's like, where the heck did that come from? I never said I was going to do that. I feel like that's what you would have said, right?
Probably something.
Yeah, like, I don't know why you expected that. But I probably would have said something like, okay, well, it's been over a month since you went to go see my parents. What are you kind of thinking? You know, how did you feel after that conversation? Did it, like, scare you away? Did it make you kind of feel like you need to slow down or change your pace? Like, how did that conversation affect you? And because beforehand you were like all gung-ho, and now it's kind of seeming like you're backing away. So I would just share my observations and suggest some things that may or may not have contributed to the change in your behavior. But if there's no change in behavior, so if your boyfriend from jump has said, I don't want to get married, I don't believe in marriage, it's not for me, I don't want to get married, and if he's 30 and he says I don't want to get married till I'm 38, and now, you know, you guys have been together for 2 years, he's now 32, and you're asking him, like, well, what's up? He's going to be like, what do you mean, what's up? Like, this is what I said, this is what I meant. I think it's so easy for us, especially as women, to want to change men, and when your boyfriend or someone you're with shows you who they are, to not believe them. If he says, oh, I don't want to get married, and you're like, oh, you'll change your mind. And in the back of your head, you're thinking that. If you're being honest, like, in the back of our minds, that's what we think. And most times when men say things, they mean it. Like, it may not be something that they're coming out boldly and, like, writing it on their chest or on their forehead, but most men, when they say something, they mean it. Even if they're laughing, even if it seems like they're joking, they pretty much mean what they say. The talking phase, when someone says, like, oh, I really like this about you, but, you know, oh, are you interested in a relationship with me? Oh, you know, not right now, I really want to take things easy. They meant it. Like, don't try to change, like, manipulate what you're hearing. Believe what you hear out of someone's mouth. So, yeah, that goes back to just, you know, picking up, continuing conversations that you all have had before. If you haven't had conversations about getting engaged, it's really not fair for you to expect that of him. And now, obviously, you can communicate with him and say, I would love to get engaged. I would love to get married one day, and if you don't want the same thing, I understand, but I would really like to hear it from you instead of just assuming. Because some guys don't say anything, and they change the subject or they divert whenever the topic is brought up, and that's not good either, because they don't want to lie and don't want to be, you know, get your hopes up, but they also just enjoy being with you. And they want to continue that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could see something that also gave you peace in that situation that I was actually going to propose one day, outside of us having conversations. Or even the fact that we had conversations, but I still didn't do it on that day. I feel like something that gave you peace was the fact that throughout our relationship, you saw the fruit in my life of when I say I'm going to do something or I say I want to do something, I actually do it. And the reason I bring that up is because if I told you, there's a lot of guys who will say, yeah, I want to get married, or I want to be in a relationship, or I want to do this, but then you never see them do it.
Action steps.
Right, because it's easy to say I want to get married. It's a whole nother thing to actually do it. And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like one of the things that probably made it a little easier for you was the fact that I was pretty consistent throughout our relationship of being somebody who follows up on their word.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
That's important. Like, I feel like that needs to be spoken.
Well, yeah, and like that's why I probably felt as confident as I did, or was more like, oh, is it gonna happen today? Because it wasn't like a fantastical idea. And I mean, we also had, outside of having a lot of conversations, like we looked at rings, we had looked at venues, we had done things or tried to look at venues anyway. We had done things that were kind of pre-engagement steps, if you will, depending on who you ask. So I knew that it wasn't something you were running from, that you were afraid of.
But I'm talking even outside of engagement. I'm talking about in my own life. If I said I'm going to
like
do
you
something,
want to get a job right after you graduate.
if I said I'm going to pick you up on this day, I'm going to do that. And I think that's important because, ladies, remember, dating is about evaluation. So if you're dating somebody and they consistently say they're going to do something, whether it's pick you up, whether it's text you, whether it's hang out with their friends, whether it's graduate, whether it's get a job, whenever they say they're going to do something, if they consistently are not following up on their word, you may want to run, because that's not a man that you really want to connect yourself with, because that's showing there's no type of follow through in their actions. And at the end of the day, like the Bible says, like, let your yes be yes. Mm-hmm. Like, we got to make sure that when we're saying we're going to do something, obviously things happen, but if you're consistently not following up on your word, to me that's a problem.
Yeah, trust, all those things build trust, and it's really important that, if you are expecting something of someone, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, well, how much do I trust this person? How well do I know them? How have they shown me that they're trustworthy in the past? And, because on the flip side, there are guys and girls who want to get engaged, and it does take longer for a lot of different reasons. And I didn't want to be a nag in that way and constantly asking, like, well, what's going on? Because I did trust you, and I did know that, like, okay, he's working on it, and every day that it's not happening, I have to trust God that, trust God and trust you and trust the character that I knew that you had, that, things were being worked out in the background. At the end of the day, this is a surprise for me. So me kind of always wanting to know what was going on is counterproductive.
Please
don't stress.
Please don't make it hard on your man by constantly asking questions about the proposal or when it's going to happen, because they're trying to make it special for you. If they're a good man, which if you're dating them for long enough to expect engagement, I hope that they're a good man. They are trying their best to keep things a secret, keep things special, and you asking is just going to make it worse and complicated. So I know it's probably hard for some people. You're going to have to just chill out.
Yeah, or at least that control.
Yeah. So this has been another episode of the W Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you laughed. We hope you learned something. And we'll see you next week on the W Podcast.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video.
To get more Christian relationship advice, subscribe to our channel.
And make sure you check out our other videos as well.